November 11th, 2011 saw the release of Skyrim. Looking at the progression of video games, Skyrim has earned a position as a milestone for the industry, its spot firmly cemented on the timeline. The landscape before and after its release is fundamentally different. Skyrim brought with it a beautiful world, steep with lore, and a balance between immersion and accessibility in its gameplay. The game honestly has had such a large impact on the industry, and analyzed through that lens of impact so repeatedly, that it's not really worth discussing further here. Rather, I would like to talk about my personal experience with Skyrim over the years. I had played Morrowind and Oblivion, and while I was a fan of both those games, they didn't even come close to preparing me for the impact Skyrim would have on me. From the very first moments, I was absolutely enthralled. I was spending basically every moment after school all through the night just lost in this world. At the time, I was the only person I knew playing Skyrim. I tried to convince my friends, but I don't think I was a good salesman. Everyone was still playing the new COD, but they would see me online just constantly on Skyrim. Eventually, one of them took the plunge, and then one by one, the rest joined us. All of a sudden, this very single-player focused experience became a social one. All of my friends over probably a week switched over, and while not everyone fell nearly as hard for Skyrim as I did, some of the boys were right there with me. It was like nothing I had experienced before. It became everything we talked about. We would be on party chats and just talking about what we were doing in the world. I got to vicariously experience the game for the first time, over and over, as they discovered what has today become so familiar. Finding the Golden Claw, joining the Inner Circle, fighting Croesus, meeting Parthenax, all moments that still today I remember so vividly, not for the moments themselves, but for my friends' reactions as they got to experience that for the first time and I got to witness it. A core memory for me actually came from a moment that never could have happened if the experience had stayed in that single-player focused experience. We're talking about all the books in the world that you could find and our personal favorites of what we had found. And I brought up The Lusty Argonian Maid. None of my friends had actually run into a copy yet or just didn't realize that they had. So naturally, I went back to Bree's home, opened up my chest, and grabbed my copies. Then I gave my best rendition of these masterworks. I was just through the second line by the time we had all lost it. Through fits of laughter, we barely made our way through the rest. And after, I didn't put the books back. This was just the beginning of many of the references and inside jokes we would make from then on. It could be across games or just about anywhere. If there was a lull in what we were doing and the mood needed to be brought back up, I'd open with a sharp before beginning another reading session, and we'd all relive that moment and share in the laughter again. So from then on, I always kept those on me whenever we played Skyrim. For that winter break, our only obligations were to ourselves and to Skyrim. We were so immersed in this world, spending all of our time together. Even after the break had ended, we continued experiencing this world together night after night. We never thought the time would end. We started to talk about what would happen if we just one day woke up and we were suddenly in Skyrim. We made a plan, just in case we ever found ourselves there, that we would meet up in Whiterun, just to make sure that we could find each other. It was just such a pure form of escapism. After a while, most of us had completed all the major events and we switched around to other games. But what began was a pattern for us with Skyrim. Every few months, we'd go on this Skyrim binge where we would start new characters, have those late night gaming sessions again, and return to this shared experience together. For the first year, it was the DLC drops that was bringing us back. Dawnguard gave us these new factions and a transformation for vampire players that I thought we so desperately needed to compete with the cool factor of the werewolves, and it became a repeated argument between us on whether a vampire lord or a werewolf would win in a fight, and I can tell you with absolute confidence, absolute certainty, that we never agreed. When the first information for Hearthfire came, it felt underwhelming. I wasn't necessarily excited about it, but it was a reason for us to go back. It gave us this new avenue of enjoying this world, a new role to play that I didn't expect. With a focus on building your home and more player agency to how the home is decorated, it gave me an experience that honestly in real life I never knew if I would have, and never even considered as something that I would enjoy in a game. It gave us more to talk about, which Hearthfire home is our favorite, what's the best layout, who's the best steward, just more that we got to experience together. With Dragonborn, we got more lore involving the worst Daedric Lord, new lands to discover, and a classic call to adventure. So much content was here with enough enough things to do and learn that it really reignited our playthroughs and breathed new life into the game for us. Having such a contained area compared to the main game made it so we did a lot of these things in tandem. An almost pseudo co-op experience, we were in real time able to discuss, feel, and discover everything we were experiencing together. For the years following, it was the wonderful mod support combined with our love for the game that was getting us to come back. We had this passion for bringing new mods to the group, being able to expand our stories and experiences every few months, someone finding something that nudged us all to come back and try out. Eventually though, not all of us were coming back together anymore. Over the years it went that way until I was coming back alone. I used Skyrim as a filler between new games popping up, but I wasn't really getting the same enjoyment out of it. The passion started to fade, the story beats memorized, and the gameplay beginning to feel outdated. Skyrim was no longer Skyrim for me. My times coming back to the game became further and further apart, and it was actually the release of the Anniversary Edition 10 years after the original that I realized I couldn't remember the last time I had played. It had to have been almost a year at that point without going back. If the Anniversary Edition hadn't come out, when would I have thought about Skyrim again? When would I have gone back? Would I have gone back? It was at this point I made the decision I would play Skyrim one last time. I would take a trip to Nexus, grab the latest and greatest, start a new character, do everything I could think of, and then say goodbye when it was done. And now here we are, almost 2 years later, and my journey nearing its end. I have one task left to complete. I didn't set out with the plan of what I would finish with originally. In fact, over the past month, I was starting to stress out about what would be my finale, the last thing I ever do in Skyrim. So much pressure on this one thing. What could possibly live up to the weight to this moment? Maybe the Ebony Warrior defeating Alduin? Maybe just go on one last bandit raid before I took an arrow in the knee. Eventually, I was returning some bear pelts in Iverstead and ran into Klimek, and it was then I realized I had never accepted his quest to deliver supplies to the Greybeards. I thought, how? Everybody does this. It's almost impossible not to do this. It's a quest that takes no extra time because you have to repeatedly go to High Hrothgar throughout the main quest line. You can just drop it off on one of those trips. Even past that, it's a short fast travel away. It was then I realized it was perfect. It's a quest I and many others have experienced dozens, if not hundreds of times over the years, but I personally never experienced it this way. To go when it's no longer convenient, to walk up these steps for the delivery alone. This was going to be both a first and a last for me in Skyrim. And it was perfect. It encapsulates the beauty of Skyrim because it's not, at the end of the day, about these grand moments that happen throughout the game. It's about what you make it. And if it was important to you to deliver these supplies, then you would make it. If it was important to you to not fast travel up those steps and take in the scenery, then you could do it. And today, both of these things were important to me. Going through this final playthrough, one thing I've noticed is the emotional weight of a lot of these moments are coming back. I know the storylines and I know where they're going to go, yet somehow they are more impactful knowing that this is the last time. In the recent months playing have been a somber note. This is the most fun I've had in a long time on Skyrim. And I think it's very natural to ask, well then why stop? Why decide this is the last time? An unfortunate truth that I've realized as I've gotten older is we are never really given the opportunity to know when we're doing something for the last time, when we have done something for the last time. And Skyrim has been important enough to me, has been at the core of so many memories, that I don't want to leave that to chance when the last time will be. If it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, it will be by my choice. And those days that I look back so fondly on around Skyrim, I know are over now. Many of those friends I haven't spoken to in a long time. So long, in fact, that I don't know the last time we were all together. Because it was nobody's choice. We didn't just decide to stop being friends one day. Just how life seems to be. We've all drifted, gotten different interests, and I don't know if I've spoken to them for the last time. I don't know if those late night sessions are truly over and it was for the last time. But that is part of the beauty of it, is that we don't know. Unless someone is making the choice that it is for the last time, there's a non-permanence to the situation. We could always reach out. We could always go meet up with old friends, but to set something up to pretend like the good old days are still happening. And I don't know if that will happen, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with accepting it. Accepting that time has changed, that we have all changed. Because much like Skyrim's impact on the greater gaming landscape, Skyrim had a massive impact on my life, and it's firmly cemented on the timeline of my own experience. I was fundamentally different before I experienced Skyrim, and I assume I'll be fundamentally different after. And I do think Skyrim is a great game, but it is not at its core the reason for that impact. It was all the memories I was able to make with my friends over that time. Memories that I hope I keep forever. And while I don't know if I've had those types of experiences for the last time, I think that I haven't. I think that time will come again, and I'll be able to have those same experiences again. They won't be the same ones, they might not be with the same people, but that same passion and that same bond over something, I think I'll see again, and I think I will have the same feeling. But I do know that if I keep looking for that in Skyrim, that I will miss it. If I keep looking into the past for those experiences, that they will have been for the last time. I don't know what comes next, but I know that I'm excited. I'm ready to accept what has been with Skyrim and move forward. For those of you that have heard this and can relate to the situation, whether it be Skyrim or something else, Skyrim was just the medium for that. I think if Skyrim hadn't come along, something else would have. It was our dynamic, it was us as friends who made those experiences so memorable. Well, that medium is gone for those experiences right now. There's nothing that stops us from trying to find a new way to make them. There's nothing that stops us from trying to choose for this not to be the last time that we have these experiences with these friends. And for those who can't relate, because they can never imagine their friends drifting in that same way and losing those experiences, I'm rooting for you. And for those of you who can't relate because they know that they have seen their friends for the last time, that their friends are gone now, and there's no getting them back, I am truly sorry. And to Skyrim, for the last time, thank you, and goodbye.